So I had a bunch of slides, and that sounds really loud. A lot of the things that I would have said in this presentation have been said already today, right? So I could go through like 20 slides of exactly the same stuff that everybody else just said. But I think instead I'm going to talk about something different. And then they took away my podium, so now I get this very high-tech piece of paper. So I want to thank David and Tenbound for inviting me out today. So David and I met when he was working with OpenDNS. We were a scrappy little company, and there was me and my laptop and my telephone and 2 or 3 other people who happened to be related to me and their laptops and their telephones. And we were working with SMBs, specifically IT companies, managed service providers, small businesses about $2 million to $5 million who were calling into other businesses around the $2 million to $5 million mark. So it was a pure volume play type of outbound. And we had this revelation one day that our clients, the managed service providers, were actually the product, right? They weren't our clients, they were the product, and that the money was on the other side of the table and we had to go get some of it. So OpenDNS was targeting the companies that were traditionally our clients, these managed service providers. And we met them at a trade show, and I was like, hey, I know we can do this for you. I know that we can put appointments in front of you. We have these great relationships that we can leverage. We've learned everything about the market. We have this huge database. I'll do it on a pay-for-performance basis. So if they don't sit the meeting and they're not qualified, you don't pay for it. And everybody liked that. We got the opportunity. They hired 4 telemarketing companies at the same time that they hired ours. There was 1 telemarketing company left standing afterwards. That was Managed Sales Pros. OpenDNS is still our client 4 years later. We're really proud of that. So thanks for that, David. That was awesome. So I'm from Canada, small town Manitoba. And before we opened our on-premise call center, we used 1099 and the Canadian equivalent, working out of their own homes with their own laptops and their own phones. So we had no overhead. We were a really lean organization. And then I got the opportunity to come to San Francisco and see how things operated in the tech world. I'd been invited to mentor at an incubator in Redwood City. So I did some mentoring at an incubator in Canada. I helped companies come up with their compelling reasons why they should be calling into the market. And GSV Labs asked me to come down and mentor there. So I got to go to a bunch of things, and I went to this event. And we all ran around the table. It was like a pitch event. And people were telling out their ideas, and everyone's like, oh, it's a good idea. And I'm like, that sounds a lot like grocery delivery. I think we have that already. There was like idea after idea after idea, and terrible ideas. They were terrible ideas. And everyone was nodding. It was like, yeah, I think I'd invest in that. I'm like, no. And then, of course, it's my turn. And like, what do you do? And I'm like, I own a telemarketing company. And you could, everyone kind of went, oh. Like, oh. Oh, it's a services firm. Like, what is it that you don't like about my services firm? Is it the profitability of my services firm that you find offensive? Or the fact that I own 100% of it and didn't have to get any financing to start it? Like, what is it that is so unpalatable about this little telemarketing firm? And they said, you can't scale it. I thought, huh. All right, well, 621%, and 3 years later, the 25th fastest growing company in Canada this year. Thank you. I'm here to tell you that you can scale anything except exceptions. Exceptions are the only thing that will not scale. So, high-tech slide. I believe that there are 2 types of outbound sales prospecting campaigns. And that's all we do is outbound sales prospecting. We don't use email at all. Our SDRs are forbidden from using it. We have a button they can push to send an email when somebody says, please send me something. It's templated. They never even see it. So, with that in mind, we do things a little bit differently. But there are 2 types of campaigns. One is a displacement campaign, meaning you're trying to unseat a current provider. So it's a knockout campaign. And the other one is a disruption campaign, and that's a land grab campaign. Nobody's there yet, we want to get there first. In order for us to scale our business, we had to focus on something specific. We went niche specific. In the niches, there are riches. And we went with one particular type of outbound prospecting campaign, and we chose displacement. And we chose displacement for a reason. With disruption campaigns, you need a highly educated SDR. Somebody with a college degree, right? Somebody who can problem solve on the fly, somebody who likely is able to engage in a much higher level conversation because they have to convince you of the value of the solution. Right? You don't know what that is. You're not using it in your business already. Somebody has to educate you and bring you along. Displacement campaigns are different. They don't require education. They've already bought into the idea. And you know this because they're already buying something else just like what you're selling. Right? So in a services-based business, for example, if they're already buying outsourced IT support, you can displace their outsourced IT support company with another outsourced IT support company. If they already have a CRM system, you're displacing that CRM system. My reps don't have to convince you of the value of using a CRM or using IT support or using any of the products that we're talking about, right? I don't have to educate you on the value of these things. You've already bought in. You're already a consumer. All I have to do now is wait out your other provider. So it all comes down to nurture. So, based on that, reasonable people don't break contracts. I think we can all agree on that, right? If you're going to call a business owner and start talking to them about their business, just because you're a fantastic sales rep and maybe you sound great on the phone and you said a couple of interesting things, doesn't mean that a reasonable person is going to break their contract with their current provider. So in a displacement capacity, this is all going to come down to contract end dates, timelines, being in the right place at the right time, stuff that's going to look an awful lot like luck. It isn't. It's process. Nurturing your leads is process. Process can be taught. Process can be replicated. Process can be scaled. And that's what we've learned. So, average SDR salary in Silicon Valley. Anyone want to guess? 60,000? 85? So the SDRs in my office make $20,000. All in. $20,800 to be exact because we pay them for vacation. So their starting salary is $20,000. The highest they can possibly go at our company is $35,000. So it's a completely different world out in Las Vegas. But I find this interesting. My $10 an hour callers have some things in common. Something different from the SDRs that we're hiring out in San Francisco. And we learned this the hard way, unfortunately. We had a belief system that we were kind of buying into when we started the business. And I heard a lot of people talk about that belief system here, the sales bench theory. We're going to bring in an SDR, we're going to groom them, we're going to turn them into this, we're going to turn them into that, they're going to go on to this. Once we started profiling our most successful agents, and this was back in the day before we'd figured out process, and we were just kind of throwing stuff against the wall and hoping that everything worked out. When we profiled our most successful agents, we realized that they shared none of the traits of a successful sales rep. So the most important trait for a sales development representative is service orientation. What you want if you're going to develop a scalable process to nurture leads, which is what you need for displacement selling, is data integrity. The most important thing is data integrity. If your sales are all contingent on knowing when people's contracts expire, who the decision makers within the organization are, what needs to happen next in order to move the process forward, what you need to do quarter to quarter to nurture that relationship. And bear in mind, they're only allowed to use the phone, so they have to be really careful about what they do and when they do it. You want people who are going to dot the I's and cross the T's, follow the process to the letter, make sure every user-defined field gets filled in. Because the alternative is your competitors beating you to that displacement. Right? So if I tell a prospect I'm going to call them back in November when they've said, you know what, we're going to think about this again in November, and I just drop the ball on it instead of doing my follow-up activity, my competitor beats them to the punch, they win the deal. Right? It's all process and timing. We've been able to take these $20,000 a year callers and turn them into $35,000 a year callers. We're never going to make them into sales reps. They don't have the personality. They have the personality required to enter all of the information needed into the user-defined fields. They have the personality to be patient. So if you can think about sales development for a minute like a combination lock. That's how we try and get our employees to think about what it is that they're doing here. You're going to have qualifiers. So for us, sometimes that means this company needs to have a minimum of 20 computers and up to a maximum of 200 in order to be considered qualified. That's a qualifying parameter, and it is an absolute, and we have to know that before we can move this forward in the process. The second thing might be timeline. All right, we only schedule meetings when they have 30 days remaining on their contract or 90 days remaining on their contract or what have you, right? There's a firm qualifier there. We do not put an opportunity forward until it is timeline appropriate, until their sales cycle is appropriate. So that's number 2. Number 3 might be budget, right? If somebody's paying $500 for something and you charge $5,000, are you really going to make them make that jump? Probably not, especially in displacement sales, because in their mind, they already have that. And there could be 4 things, there could be 5 things, there could be 8 things. But very much like a combination lock, one by one, you turn the lock. And when all of the things fall into place, the appointment is the natural byproduct of that process. The lock just opens. Sales reps take crowbars to doors. So that's the difference between an SDR and a sales rep. Sales rep isn't waiting, right? The sales rep has numbers to make now. So the sales rep isn't gently turning the lock. The sales rep is like, never mind that. We're just going to take a crowbar. We're going to open the door. We're going to schedule the appointment. We're going to get this done. And that's what we found. Inevitably, when we hired to sales profiles, because we've had people come and sit in our office where I was just like blown away by them. I adored them. I loved them. Everything they said, I was like, oh yes, this is going to be great. I can't wait to hire this person. They took the personality profile and I was like, oh no, I can't hire them. Now, every time we go against our instincts and say, you know what, this time it's going to be different, we get poorly qualified appointments, we get overly aggressive salespeople, we don't get what our clients need. And what our clients need and want are qualified appointments. And I only get paid when somebody shows up to that meeting and is exactly who they said they were. Right? So if they don't have the three things that I need in order to be considered qualified, I don't get paid for that meeting. So if I've got a sales rep personality, somebody who's looking for commissions, somebody who just wants the win, somebody who likes that feast-famine lifestyle, I'm not going to get paid. And that's not okay with me anymore. So now we only hire to that SDR personality, which is risk adverse and patient. My SDRs come in at 8, they leave at 4. There is no quota. They don't have to carry a number because there's absolutely no way to know in the market how many opportunities in the buy cycle there are at any given time. Right? I don't want them making up things to get to quota. I want them delivering high quality meetings to my clients. If I have a month, or let's say a week, I don't think I've ever had a month, but if I have a week where I deliver 0 appointments to a client, I just had a shitty week. Everybody has shitty weeks. That's totally cool. If I have a week where I deliver 20 appointments to a client and 18 of them no-show, I'm a shitty company. Right? So I don't want those aggressive, just get it done, just get it done, just get it done, just get it in the door type sales personalities on my SDR team. I want people who are going to do the work, show their work, and who want to be there, who wanted the job to begin with. Most people don't dream of becoming SDRs. Like I didn't get out of bed one day and think, I'm going to be a telemarketer. That is my career goal. Yay. I became a telemarketer, for anybody who doesn't know the story, because I was a raving lunatic alcoholic. And call centers are always hiring. That's how I ended up becoming a telemarketer. I didn't dream of it one day. No, I didn't. I started my business because I was a great telemarketer and I couldn't understand why, if I could make my numbers in 4 hours, I had to stay at work for 8. So, hold on. Where are we? So the one more thing that our callers need is they need to want to be there, right? So you can have the right personality profile. We have some challenges running a high churn call center, right? Like we are a $10 an hour call center. We're not paying our callers $80,000 and there's no career path. You know, SDRs become better SDRs. One of our SDRs became a subject matter expert. One of our SDRs became a call center manager. And that was only after we failed miserably at trying to hire somebody that fit into our island of misfit toys. So the people we hire, I would describe very much as second chance career starts. I don't know if that's a really good way to describe it, but you know, 4 of the women that I work with right now live in a rehab, like a rehab house. I don't remember what you would call them. And that's been a great source of referrals for us. Here's people that truly messed up their lives. They were great at other things, but now they got prison records and they were homeless and they were this and they were that. And you know, now they work with us. And they're happy to be there. They're happy to be employed. They're happy in their $10 an hour role. Right? Will they be happy forever? Probably not. So here's where process comes in. We have built a process that is so well defined that it doesn't matter if people churn through our call center. They can come in, they can go. It doesn't matter. Any agent in my company can pick up where any other agent left off because our data integrity is solid. Our process is clearly defined. It takes us under 2 weeks to take an agent who's never made a phone call before and turn them into somebody who can schedule appointments without assistance. 2 weeks. We have a bench of people readily available to step in because we know we're going to churn. So we've prepared for that. There is no career path for SDRs within our organization. Right? They're going to, the good people stay probably out of necessity, out of loyalty. You know, they were happy that someone gave them a shot, but they're going to top out at $35,000 a year, and then they're going to go somewhere else. And good on them. I hope they do. I hope they all come to Silicon Valley and get $80,000 salaries and drive 2 hours to get to work every day. But that's not going to happen for everyone. So our goal is to take okay SDRs and turn them into amazing SDRs. And then I hope they do move on and do something fantastic. But for our margins to work the way that they do, and our process to work the way that it does, I need lower cost callers doing more things. So we don't do any email, we don't do any research. Nobody looks at anything before they pick up the phone. They get a list. Their leads get fed to them. They make their calls. I believe that 5 minutes talking to anybody at a company will tell you more than 20 minutes of messing around on LinkedIn will. And I can't have them spending their time. Somebody just said that. The guy that was on stage, Russ from Google, just said, there is no value in paying your SDRs to do research. Somebody else can do that. We've done that for them. It's all right there for them. All they have to do is make the call and ask the questions. And there's no variance, right? Question 1. And if question 1 gets answered like this, then you ask question 2. And if they say this, then you ask question 3. It's a very clearly defined process that is easy to follow. So, now as a company that schedules appointments for other companies, we have some interesting challenges that people who are developing their own sales teams likely wouldn't have, right? Like we've got data that needs to be clearly segmented, and we have some challenges with our stack, and I hate that word, but if I side-by-side compare what we're doing with our clients, so we have clients like OpenDNS. OpenDNS has been a client of ours for 4 years now, and they are now Cisco, and woo, Cisco approved vendor overnight. That was the best. And then we're working with Connecticut's only unicorn. It's a company called Datto. And we side-by-side work with their SDR teams, very much the way that DiscoverOrg was talking about their relationship with inside sales earlier on stage. We perform as well, if not better than, their internal sales team. Their internal sales team that they're paying their reps $65,000 to $80,000 a year. They've got a $1,000 per seat per month stack. Ours is $100. So I have a $10 an hour rep using a $100 an hour stack, and we are performing side by side exactly the same as a technology unicorn. I think that's amazing. Any questions? Yes.
You don't have quotas. How do you measure your SDRs?
How do I measure whether or not they're doing their jobs? We look at things like, obviously we have KPIs that we look at. We're looking at number of dials per hour. Mostly I'm looking at things like time between dials, right? Like most of the time, day by day, rep by rep, everything looks the same, right? This many calls are gonna get dispositioned as voicemail. This many calls are gonna get dispositioned as generic voicemail. And this many will be did not answer, and this many will be out of business. And so what I'm always looking for is the variances day to day, right? Like, so for example, there was a weird thing happening in the call center where a couple of agents had numbers that were just like off the charts good. And I was like, wow, they're really like, they're really doing a good job. And then I started looking at their disposition percentages, and they were all off, right? The dispositions were all messed up. Turns out they were just watching YouTube videos on their phone and dumping calls, right? It took me 2 days to pick that up. 2 days just from looking at the numbers on the back end. So we never fire anybody for not being able to get meetings, right? What we're looking for are the things that are going to cause problems further down the line. What I want are people saving me from having to make 17 more calls into this unqualified company, right? So instead of somebody having to call into a lead 20 times, 30 times, 50 times, the way that our call center works is we have a database of about 80,000 leads, and we support probably 12 currently, IT, manufacturers, distributors, vendors, and they all hit the same data. So if we learn something on call 1 that will benefit, client 3, we get to take advantage of all of that. We own all the data, we keep it, it constantly gets smarter. We learn how big people are and what software they're using and what they do like and what they don't like. The artificial intelligence feature in my CRM is ruining my business. I hate it. But I mean, hey, what do you want for $35 a seat? Anything else?
You said that you would focus on like displacement campaigns. Do people come to you with more of like that land grab opportunity, and do you say like we're not the right fit for that?
It depends on what the opportunity is. So if it's in our, let's say if it's in our wheelhouse, if it's a technology company and they want to do something very specific, we would do that for them. We wouldn't do it on a pay-for-performance basis, though. So one of the reasons that we're able to offer that pay-for-performance opportunity to our client base is that we own all the data. So people aren't coming to us with a list from the library saying, please call all these companies and get me amazing appointments with them. Like, we already know where we can have the highest percentage shot of being successful based on what they say to us. So the company has to look like this. They have to be this big, and they have to be in this industry, and they have to be using this software, but not this software. We just kind of play with it until we have the list that's our highest percentage shot. Then we drop off anybody that chronically no-shows. So there's companies in our database, for example, that have never showed up for anything that we've ever scheduled for them. We don't have to call them anymore. We know they're not going to go, and we're not going to get paid, so we just don't even bother. And that's what I'm trying to measure my reps against. Are they protecting us from looking bad in front of our clients, right? Like, did you not catch that this guy's no-showed 7 times in a row already? Why did you schedule an appointment with him? Yes?
What's the biggest thing that you focus on to get your reps from $20,000 rep to $35,000?
We've just implemented, we've just implemented kind of a, I don't know how you describe it. Like, there was really nowhere to go from, $10 an hour rep to $17 an hour rep. And we wanted to step it up in stages. We wanted to take a rep from, let's call it a level 0. So you're in training, you know nothing, you cannot make calls unassisted, to like level 1. Okay, you've been assigned to a campaign, you successfully completed training, now you get a raise, you're a level 1 rep. A level 2 rep, you get a raise. Level 2 reps can function on multiple campaigns. So they're able to toggle back and forth. So now you've been trained on one thing, you understand how everything we do applies to everything else that we do, you know how to use the data, you know how to toggle back and forth in between the different data sets. You've advanced to this level. Then we have a team lead. So you launch a program. All of the callers interact with you when they have questions. And then we have what's called the level 4 SME, and then SME is a subject matter expert, and they are able to develop a campaign. And that's kind of where we top out, and then we have one manager. And then we try to find, if there is a way for us to take an SDR and put them into a completely different role, I'd much rather promote from within our company than go looking for it externally. So if somebody comes to me and says, hey, my dream is to do this, if we can help them get there, we will. But part of the challenge we have is we don't promote anybody to anything at any time until they've gone 90 days without a corrective of any kind. Right? We also, we have zero tolerance for absenteeism or tardiness. Right? You show up late in your first week of training, you're fired. You don't show up at all. Like, we don't have any tolerance for that nonsense. Vegas is an at-will state. Come work late too many times, you just don't have a job anymore. Like at that $10 an hour level, there's all kinds of stuff that goes on that we need to manage and mitigate. But we also have tried to become a really attractive employer in Las Vegas. We offer paid lunch breaks. So you come in for your 8-hour shift, but you're only working 6.5 between your coffees and your lunch. We give them 2 paid weeks holidays every year. We pay 75% of a really good health insurance plan for them. So we're trying not to be a churn and burn call center, but we are, I mean, technically, if you looked at the way that we operated side by side with other call centers, we're probably closer to the churn and burn, what do they call it, spray and pray telemarketing office. I mean, we're not a boiler room, but we do expect callers to maintain a certain volume of calling. Displacement campaigns are highly dependent on volume and timing. The volume has to be there, or the opportunities don't come out the bottom of the funnel. So when people don't show up, we don't get the calls we need. Am I out of time? I'm out of time.
Carrie's going to be around. I definitely want to thank you so much for coming on. It was awesome. Thank you. And we didn't.